In the previous video, I showed you the basic dimensioning commands. The only thing that we really did to prep for that was to make the dimensions layer current and then basically place the dimensions. What I want to get to now is kind of combining our dimensioning knowledge and our plotting and printing knowledge from the videos before that. We had set up our drawing to be plotted on an A-size sheet inside of a viewport. I'm going to go into model space, and while I'm in model space we can see that that viewport is at quarter scale, if you will. 3 inches equals a foot. I'm going to go back to Paperspace, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to place one dimension for demonstration purposes from here to there, and that's fine. And now I'm going to go look at the layout, and I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to say, geez, this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. My drawing is reduced, or being shown to me, reduced by a factor of 4 inside the viewport. Everything that's in model space has been reduced by a factor of 4, including arrowhead size and text height. So the text height is quite short. Typically we want our text to be about 1/8 of an inch on the sheet of paper. If I zoom in and I kind of use my measuring tools to just measure the distance, and I'm just going to give this kind of an eyeballing type technique here, from here to here, you can see that your dimensions are less than 1/16 of an inch tall. That's way too small. We can't read that. I'm going to double click the wheel to zoom back out, and what I'm going to do is go back to model space and say this just won't do. I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to go back to my layout now, and what I'm going to do is actually place my dimensions on the paper over the top of our viewport, which is a big cutout in the paper to be able to see our model out there in model space. And you'll see that now we'll be able to see our dimensions, the text and the arrowheads, a whole lot more clearly. I'm going to pick this, and I'm going to pick there, and I'm going to pick there, and I'm going to place the dimension. And now we're going to zoom in a little bit. You can see that I can definitely see that it is at a height in relationship to the paper, not at a height in relationship to the actual model. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to use my measuring tool, and I'm going to go up here and go up there and say, okay, now it's visible. It's about 0.875, something like that. I mean, it's just rough because I'm not picking the actual height, but still not at that 1/8 of an inch, and I'll tell you why it's not at 1/8 of an inch. The powers that be at Autodesk, just like they've included layer 0 with every single drawing that's out in AutoCAD, and they've created a text style of standard that's available in every drawing that's ever created with AutoCAD. They also have created a standard a standard dimension style, and they've used a weird text height. I think the text height by default is set to 0.2. I have no idea why somebody would pick a number like that. What we're going to do is create our own dimension style and use that. To create our own dimension style, I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to note that the second line is my dimensioning style, and I'm using the standard style. I only have 2 styles. I have one called annotative. We'll address that in a future video. And I have one called standard. And I'm going to go back here and use this button right here to bring up the dimension style dialog box. And what I'm going to do is make a new dimension style, And we'll give it a style that might be pertinent for your company. I'll just say, hey, this is just going to be regular dimensioning, good enough. I'm going to start with all the settings that are involved in the standard style, and we'll just say continue. And now essentially, if I kind of move this away, in a second, once I say OK and create this new style called regular, it'll be added to the list, and there'll be no difference if I were to say OK right now between standard and regular. What I'm going to do is redefine the settings for the regular dimension style that I'm about to create. And you can see that there are lots and lots of settings inside of a dimension style. I'm not going to address virtually any of these except 2, 3, 4 maybe of them. What I'm going to do is go to the text tab, and I'm going to see that the text height is set to 0.18. Okay, so I guessed wrong a little bit earlier when I was saying 0.2. I'm going to change my text height to be the more standard 0.125. Some companies, because of the accuracy of CAD, have gone down to like 0.09 or 0.09375 or 3/16 of an inch high text because it is very legible. Very legible. Back in the old manual drafting days, we used 1/8 of an inch high. A lot of times drawings were microfilmed and they were, had pictures taken of them. And if it got any smaller, those things would get kind of blurry. So a lot of companies still stick with that 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to live with that. The other thing that I want to do is realize that I can use the text styles that I've created. And if I pull this down, there's my normal text style, or my fancy text style that had that kind of hand lettering look to it. I'll pick that. And now all my dimensions kind of look hand lettered. Architectural firms kind of like this. They like their drawings to look more hand lettered. So now my regular style is going to be using 1/8 of an inch tall text, and it's going to be using my fancy text style. This is available to me because I added that fancy text style to the template, and when I pick my new command from up here, my Q new command, I use my template to start it, and now that's there. If I were to add my regular dimension style to my template, I'll have that available to me every time. I won't ever have to make a new dimension style every time I start a new drawing. The final thing that I want to talk about is the type of units. If you'll note, I am seeing decimal type units, and I'm seeing them accurate out to 4 decimal places. It's rounding things off at 4 decimal places. If I go to the primary units tab, this is very similar to the units command that we talked about in a video a long time ago, just to control the appearance of our dimensions in our drawing. I'll live with decimal. I'll change this to not to be accurate to 4 decimal places, just round everything off to 2 decimal places. Okay, and when I say OK in a minute, and then apply this new style to that dimension, we'll only see 2 decimal places, and we'll see it with our preferred text style and with our preferred text type. So I only made a couple of changes to this dimension style, and I'll say OK, and now that's active, and now it's becomes the current text style also, or excuse me, the current dimension style also. And I'll close this up, and now if I were to place another dimension, let's say from here to here, it's using a more appropriate text type, it's using a nicer looking text style, and it's only rounding everything off to 2 decimal places of accuracy. That's as accurate as many mechanical drawings need to be. Just like I can pick lines, arcs, and circles and change their layer, I can pick dimensions and change the dimension style that they're being displayed with. So if I pick this dimension With quick properties turned on, I can use my dimension style drop-down list and make this be the regular style. And now it's being shown to me in that same style that is now current. So you can swap out styles if you leave one style current and meant to have a different one current. You can place the dimension and then change its style. You don't have to erase it and then make the correct style current and redo the dimension. In the next video, we'll talk about scaling a little bit, but what I want you to understand is that when you do your dimensions in Paperspace, and they are in Paperspace, if we see this, I'm in Paperspace. I can only pick these. I can only pick objects that are in the space that I'm in. If I try to pick this circle or these lines, anything in the drawing, I can't because they're in model space. If I go back to the model tab, I can't see my dimensions because my dimensions are in Paperspace. So it can be very clean to place dimensions on our paper. If you recall, we created dimensions or our drawing on a B-size sheet also at a different scale factor. If I pick model and I go inside of here and I look, remember this is 6 inches equals a foot or half size. If I go back to paper and I pick linear and I do a linear dimension from here to here, I didn't have to worry about what the scale factor was. I'm working at a 1-to-1 scale factor. I'm at a real world size sheet of paper. I'm just going to use my real world units that are attached with this dimension style. In the next video, we'll talk about how do I place dimensions in model space. I do know if I wanted this to be on a B-size sheet and I wanted it to be on a C-size sheet, I'd have to place all the dimensions on this sheet and I'd have to place all the dimensions on this sheet. How do I get it so I can see them in both or through both viewports? We would have to do our dimensions in model space, and we'll talk about that in the next video.